Top Fight fans, back at it with another one here at Round One Sports Talk. We're going to be getting into some of the biggest fights that are up and coming, and I put a little segment together about the belts. Please like, share these videos, subscribe, comment, um, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. You ain't gonna want to miss this. So, some of the biggest fights in boxing right now, we have Errol Spence Jr. going to face off against one-time Keith Thurman. Now, once again, this is one of these situations where that Errol Spence Jr. just has not been active. I mean, he's had like 3 fights in 3 years. One-time Keith Thurman also has not been active. Okay, so in this fight, I'm concerned about my guy. I got Errol Spence Jr. in this fight. And when he got into his first car accident and he came back and he fought against Garcia, he looked like he had a little ring rust. Then he fight against Ugas and he looked really good. Errol Spence Jr. started looking like Errol Spence Jr. once again. And I was happy and I was excited. But now, once again, here we are 14, 15 months later, and he still hasn't fought. Okay? So now, do we go back to Errol Spence? And by the way, he got into another car accident, which they're reporting nothing happened. So this one is real interesting. Look, I got Errol Spence Jr. in this fight. I'm not giving up on my American fighter. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens. On other news, we have Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. I don't really report on Ryan Garcia. Tank Davis, I will report on Tank Davis. Tank Davis is an active fighter. Whether you like or hate him, listen, he is explosive. Okay? And he brings entertainment. Okay? And I like his fighting style, and I think he's highly underrated. And I don't think people know how high ring IQ he actually has. And I don't think we saw the best version of Tank Davis. Okay? So, but when it comes to Ryan Garcia, man, I gotta say it, he's a drama queen. I'm sorry, okay? Because let's keep it in mind that this fight was once upon a time, scheduled. Ryan Garcia pulled out of the fight. Yes, Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight was scheduled at once upon a time. Ryan Garcia pulled out of the fight, stating that he wanted to have an exhibition fight with Manny Pacquiao, which was weird, right? Manny Pacquiao had no idea what was going on. Words were saying Oscar De La Hoya publicly came out with an apology, apologizing for the kid. No sooner than that debacle went by, he retires from boxing. Then he comes back, schedules a fight, pulls out of that fight, citing mental health issues. Okay? Then he goes on and fights 2 more fights. Tank Davis has a fight. He says he doesn't need a tune-up fight. He just wants to go straight ahead and fight this guy. There's just too many things behind that Ryan Garcia kid, and it's a goddamn shame because that kid is talented. Okay, he has great speed, good power. I just don't think that he's taking boxing seriously. I think he's playing around with boxing, and it's a shame because, listen, I think that he can go far in the sport, Ryan Garcia. Okay, he has good potential, man. He's just not taking it seriously enough for me. Anyway, okay, all right. Now, we have Inoue the Monster again versus Stephen Kubo Fulton. And now I have been going around looking at videos on YouTube, Dante's Nation, Blue Bloods, all these channels, which they call themselves new media, just like me, right? Okay. Now, here's the ironic thing is that none of them are seeing. See, all these channels are giving credit to fighters when old media and ESPN try to give you these fake narratives. They do a pretty good job coming out and telling you this. But in the same sense, they're falling into this same storyline and they're only seeing one way now, right? What in actuality is happening is that Inoue was never on their protected list. And neither is Inoue within their plans. Inoue spoiled their plans like American fighters do time and time again. Okay? Inoue did exactly that. I'm going to prove it to you. Okay. See, new media doesn't bring this up and they don't tell you this. But once upon a time, Donito Donaire was on that protective list. ESPN and all these people were pumping him out like he was the best thing since sliced bread at one point in time. If you do, let me take you down back memory lane. Donito Donaire was number 2 on the pound per pound list in the world behind Manny Pacquiao at the time. Okay. When they were ESPN and all of them pushing up Donaire on that hope list, and he went up in weight and he lost, just like Lomachenko and all these other fighters that they got on their list. When a monster Inoue came up against Donaire in the World Series of Boxing, there was their opportunity to boost up their fighter again. Donaire, not Inoue. Inoue spoiled that night for Donaire. Okay? And in fact, the blatant cheating was on full display. Okay? If you remember in that fight, Donaire was hurt to the body and he was walking around in the ring. The referee decided to halt the action in behalf of Donaire. When Inoue was going in for the kill, Donaire didn't take a knee. He didn't take a standing 8 count. The referee decided for him to give him a break. Now, the referee also counted 2-10. Okay? And the fight was let to continue, which led me to believe that the boxing politics was on the side of Donaire that night. They weren't on the side of Inoue. Inoue spoiled the plans. Okay? And when these Dante Nation and these YouTube channels are saying, hats off to Inoue for taking the fight, how dare you? What a slap in the face to Inoue that is. You're doing exactly what they were doing to black fighters to Inoue. Fulton never asked for this fight. The smoke is coming from Inoue's side. Inoue is the one that petitioned the WBO to mandate this fight. So how are you taking your hats off for Inoue for taking this fight? When Inoue is the one that initiated the fight. See, that's how they want to sell it to you. They want to act like they're giving Inoue credit for taking the fight. No, Stephen Kubo Fulton wanted to move up to 126 to fight Brandon Figueroa. Inoue came in and interrupted that fight. Okay? So, when you're saying that the monster Inoue was on these protected lists, he was never on those protected lists. In fact, if you didn't know this, do you know they offered Inoue one of those fake ass belts and he denied it? That's right. Inoue wouldn't take them belts. He wouldn't let them taint his championship pedigree. He said, if I didn't win that belt, I don't want it. That's a fake belt. Inoue asked the guy, is that a real world title? He says, no, then I don't want it. He didn't allow that to happen like some of your champions. Okay? All right? So, when this is all being pushed and spun around by these boxing channels, they're going to try to make it seem like Inoue is the smaller fighter, the less skilled of the two fighters, and that Fulton is the superior fighter just because he's a black American fighter, which is starting to piss me off because I love American fighters. And that's not the reason. Okay? Inoue, and then they're trying to say that Inoue has never sparred against a black American fighter, but yet he went down to Freddie Roach's fight camp and he's been training on his defense with Freddie Roach. Doesn't Freddie Roach have a bunch of black fighters in that gym? Right? And if Inoue doesn't train with black fighters, when if I mean, am I the only one that noticed when he fought Paul Butler, he went behind the back like this, like Roy Jones? Did you see his footwork when Inoue was coming in and out? That's American style fighting right there, footwork. Where did he get that from? Bro, these guys are full of shit. And their storylines are full of shit too. And I just want you guys to know this. I want you to know that no matter what they say about the monster Inoue, let's just keep this in the forefront. That the reason why we're getting this fight is because of the monster Inoue. That is the sole reason. Fulton never put down for this fight. Fulton's promotional company never asked for this fight. And Inoue was smart enough to petition the WBO to use his power and his leverage to make this fight to come to fruition. So if anyone we have to thank here is Inoue, because if from my perspective, he's the only one daring to be great here. The only reason why Fulton accepted this fight is because it makes dollars and cents. North of the equator, south to the equator, there's no bigger fight for Stephen Kubo Fulton. He has no one. The only thing you got is the monster Inoue. Okay? And what I got to say about this is this. Okay? If we're going to sit here and we're going to pick straws about this stupid narrative that Inoue hasn't sparred against black fighters, he hasn't fought against black fighters. Well, you want to know something? Bro, Emmanuel Rodriguez destroyed that Russell kid. He beat the man, he broke him. And Inoue dusted him off in 2 rounds. So if his competition has no problem fighting black American fighters, and who he's beaten has beaten them, you just can't turn around and say that just because that guy beat him, that Inoue is. But bro, it sheds some light into it. That if a monster Inoue is capable of beating the guys that have beat black American fighters, well then he's above those guys. That's all I'm saying. And if there isn't anything there, and they're cute. Dante Nation is real cute. The way he tried to say that Inoue ran by a division, that there was no one there in the division. No one there in the division. These guys are champions, highly decorated. I want Dante's Nation, right, to walk up to Emmanuel Rodriguez and tell him that he's nobody. I want Dante Nation to walk up to Nito Donaire, which is a fucking Hall of Famer, and say that he's nobody. Bro, Paul Butler was a decent champion. But no sooner that a monster beats him, he was a nobody. It's remarkable that after he outclasses, could it be that he's just that good? And instead of saying that Inoue's just that good, you rather say that the fighters that he fought against are nobodies. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's a slap in the face to a champion. Okay? Look, this is a great fight. I'll keep saying it. Kubo Fulton has a unique skill, right? I just don't think that what he brings to the table is enough to beat a guy like Inoue. But we're soon going to find out, ain't we? Ain't we? And I'm going to tell you right now, without question, without a doubt, on the day that fight streams, I will be streaming live. Unfortunately, I can't show you the fight because they'll shut down my channel for that. But I'll be going, I'm going to narrate the fight for you, right? If Inoue was to lose this fight, hey, he loses the fight. He's still a highly decorated champion. He's still young. Where he goes from here, we'll find out. There's a lot of other fights still scheduled. Okay, if Fulton was to lose this fight, Inoue's obviously going to put his intentions on MJ, and Fulton's probably going to lead the division and move up, and he will be a champion in another weight division. I'm gonna tell you right now, Stephen Kubo Fulton will be a champion at 126. All right, you can quote me on that one. All right, so you know, so where we go from here, time will tell. But as of right now, you can listen and you could watch those stupid ass channels if you want to. And you can listen to their weak ass arguments and their storylines, which make no kind of sense. Okay? Because for some reason they're giving all the credit to Fulton when he didn't put none of this together. He was just on the whim. They forced him to take this fight. So let's keep that 100. He was mandatory by the WBO. So let's keep that in the forefront. That all the smoke is coming from Inui. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Okay? So, as of right now, we have a fight going. I wanted to talk about the world titles and what it means to be a world champion. What belt was first? What world title was introduced to boxing first? And the last world champion and where it stands. Okay. So the WBA was the first boxing world championship. Boxers like Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, the list goes on. Those were real world champions, but there was only one belt and there was no confusion. One belt, WBA world champion. That's it. Now, off of the WBA, the WBC spun off the WBA. Now, the WBC main headquarters is in Mexico. That's that green belt. Ironically, it's made out of red leather, right? But it's green, you know. And some of the champions that held that belt have made it a real popular belt. So the WBC might be one of the most recognized popular belts, but the WBA was the original. Okay. So off of the WBC, the IBF was formed. It was a spinoff of the WBC. In 1983, the IBF was formed, and its main headquarters is in New Jersey. Okay. So the IBF was established. The IBF didn't get its credibility until fighters like Larry Holmes became champion. The Marvelous one, Marvelous Hagler, owned an IBF championship, but when he won it, he wasn't recognized as a 3-time world champion, meaning that at the time that Marvelous Hagler won the IBF, he was already the WBC and WBA world champion. But for some reason, they didn't sanction the fight. And on that night, he won the IBF. And they didn't consider him as a unified world champion, okay, at the time. Larry Holmes was the one that made the championship, the IBF championship, a big championship because they recognized him as the heavyweight champion and he was the IBF champion. He had vacated the WBC at that time. Okay, and that's what gave the IBF its notoriety. You know what I'm trying to say. It's fucking star status. Okay, so then came 5 years later the WBO. The WBO established in 1988. The WBO's headquarters is in Puerto Rico. Okay, that title took a long time to be recognized as a world title. For instance, there was many champions that held the WBO champion, but at the time they weren't considered champions. Okay. A lot of fight analysts, reporters, and a lot of fighters themselves have all brought it down to this unique moment in time when the WBO got its credibility. It was September 18, 2004. Bernal Harperton was the WBC, WBA, IBF champion, and he was going up against Oscar De La Hoya, which is the WBO champion. On that night, they fought to unify all 4 belts. Oscar De La Hoya lost that night, and Bernal Harperton became the first undisputed, unified champion, middleweight champion of the world. He had all 4 belts. And I believe on that night, the WBO got its notoriety to becoming and recognized as a major world champion. Okay? And then the Klitschko brothers had a run with the WBO title. There were many, many, many champions that had the WBO title. But in 2004, it's when it finally became a world title. See, when the early 80s, when Mike Tyson was heavyweight champion of the world, nobody was saying that Mike Tyson needed to get the WBO title. No one was saying Lennox Lewis needed to get the WBO title. No one, okay, because it wasn't recognized as a title. So that's the title histories. Now they're trying to clean up the titles. When you hear words like when they announce a champion inside of a ring, this is where the confusion comes in. They announce them. They say the WBC regular champion. When you hear the word regular, that's another way of saying interim title. Instead of them saying he's the WBC interim champion, they'll say he's the WBC regular champion, the WBC gold champion, the WBC silver, Pacific, whatever. Those are not world championships. The only belt that means anything is the Super WBC champion of the world. Now that is the top belt. For instance, it would be like Jordan sneakers, right? If you got retro Jordans and these dudes come around with the Miguelitos, like I like to call them, right? And they rocking them J's, bro, those ain't retros, those ain't J's. We know it. But, you know, they're Jordans, they're just not official, right? You got a regular belt, but it's just not official. See, and sometimes I blame this on us, the fans. We allow this to happen. We allow them to ceremoniously have these belts made. And when we see our favorite fighter with the belt, we agree with it. Yeah, he's the champion. And fuck it, he's got the belt. I see it. That's a world title. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because at the end of the day, when you retire and it's all said and done, and you go to walk in the Hall of Fame on the boxing records, and they put your career, and they finally sign off on your career, they only accept real world championships. So if you had one of those regular titles, there's going to be an asterisk next to that belt. And it's going to identify that that was not a world championship. Case in point, Manny Pacquiao is a prestige champion, and I would take nothing away from Manny Pacquiao. And this is not putting down Manny Pacquiao in no shape or form, because this is our fault. They are announcing Manny Pacquiao as an 8th division world champion. If I dare you right now, go on YouTube and scour YouTube of all the videos and all the boxers and boxing critics and all these professional men like Max Callahan that have been around for years that say that Manny Pacquiao is an 8th division world champion. I see why they do this. Because his star status is so big outside of boxing that they needed to make him a bigger boxer than what he actually was. But they really didn't have to do that, because in actuality, he is a real 6-time division world champion. Yes, he is. But if you were to go to boxing records right now, I dare you, they don't lie. They have Manny Pacquiao down as a 6th division world champion. They show you his other belts, but those alphabet belts and interim belts are not considered world championships. But he did win those little belts, and if in 8 divisions, and if you were to look at it, he did this, but they weren't major world titles. Okay, only 6 divisions. And whose fault is this? This is our fault, us as boxing fans, because we allow this to happen in boxing and we accept it. And not only do we accept it, we double down on it. We go on and make videos and convince other people in the world that this is actually what he did. You see, you know why this is our fault? Because you can't do this in no other sport. There is no way on God's green earth You're going to go on ESPN and announce LeBron James as an 8-time NBA champion. 8 rings. The NBA world would go crazy. What do you mean LeBron James has 8 rings? Where did he win these 8 rings? They would go absolutely bananas. You wouldn't make it out of that interview with him announcing him as an 8-time NBA champion without the internet fucking crashing. But you can do it in boxing. And no one blinks an eye. Whose fault is that? And then we're blaming the corruption in boxing and all these politics when it's us. We co-sign on this bullshit. But not here on this channel. No. On this channel, we expose all that. We tell the truth. We keep it 100. Because if we don't do it here, when do we start? So if you come to my channel to hear, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. And all my truth are back with receipts. I dare you to go to Boxing Record right now and look up Manny Pacquiao's record. Shit, even in the encyclopedia, the WIC, they got him down as an 8th Division World Champion. That's how much they're promoting these lies. But when it's all said and done, and he goes to the Hall of Fame, you're going to see the number change. Because the Hall of Fame only accepts what you actually did, not what they say you did. Okay? So, listen. That's all I got for you right now. Please like, subscribe to the video. You know, I'm going to be sending out notifications. I will be streaming some of these fights. I will be narrating some of these fights. Unfortunately, I can't show you the fights, but I will be going play by play in the fights. May the best man win. Listen, let me know what you think. And I hope you learned something here today on my channel. Without further ado, peace. On to the next one.